Naimbag nga aldaw kada kayo amin nga kay Lokanwak. I'm Dr. Ray Gapus, joining you for this teaching and learning session on entrepreneurial behavior and personality. So we're gonna have this session in 3 parts. So without further ado, let me start with my declaration of fair use, my declaration of authorization for possible playback, and of course, my declaration of no conflict of interest. I declare no conflict of interest. So let's begin with our part 1 discussion. And for this specific session, we will cover what is contained in our objectives. So without further ado, let's begin. So if I ask you this question, what makes an entrepreneur? Once again, in our previous videos, we've addressed this issue and we tried to analyze it and identify whether it's due to nature or nurture, meaning could it be genetics or could it be a stimulation from environmental factors. So I was raised in a very entrepreneurial family. So ang nanay ko po ay tindera ng tinapay sa palengke at ang tinapay na tinitinda niya ay gawa po ng tatay kong panadero. So early on, I was really exposed to a very entrepreneurial environment. One funny thing is the fact that when I went into a meeting in a university in our province, the vice president came to me and said, Dr. Ray, we've met each other in our past lives. And I said, past lives, Doc? Sabi niya, I'm just kidding. It's actually several years ago when you were still very young, because I used to be one of the boys that sell pandesal from your bakery. And I said, oh my God. And he is now the vice president of that university. So, using all of those things that have stimulated our minds on what really makes an entrepreneur, let's proceed further by identifying what is it in our personality that makes us a potential entrepreneur, or are we really born with the traits that will make us a successful entrepreneur? So when you take a look at personality, it's defined as the integration of those systems and habits that represents an individual's characteristic adjustment to his environment. 2 important words: integration, meaning it could be a function of both genetics and environmental factors, and adjustment. So what does that tell us? Personality is something that we can predict based on how a person behaves. So that would make us think, therefore, can we predict if a person would become an entrepreneur? Would there be indicators? Could it be dependent on how they cry at birth? Pag umiyak ba yan na parang Nora Ono na, uha, gano'n? Could they become an actress? Or if they cry like Henry C. when he was born, would he be a good entrepreneur? Okay, so these are questions that we would want to answer in this discussion. Okay, so according to Dr. Martin Dreesen, an entrepreneurial personality is one that sees opportunities and exploits them by creating value for themselves and others sustainably, which simply means that an entrepreneurial personality is good at scouting opportunities where they can offer a solution to improve whatever is existing in the market and potentially getting rewarded by a return of their investments in terms of their time, energy, and resources. And that is, in a nutshell, what an entrepreneurial personality is. However, we have to remember the fact that some believe that some personality traits are fixed. Okay, we're not saying that they are wrong. We have to respect those who believe that entrepreneurial personality traits are fixed. However, there are those that say otherwise, and there have been studies from across several decades already that tell us that the entrepreneurial personality can be something that can be developed in a person. But this brings to mind again the question, when is it the right time for a person to become an entrepreneur? Okay. Do we have entrepreneurs immediately at birth? Do we have entrepreneurs when they already get retired? Now, the question is, when you are an entrepreneur, how much can you spare in terms of your time, energy, and resources? In other words, in Tagalog, ano ang kaya mong isugal? Because the entrepreneurial mindset is one who is a risk taker. That's why a lot of business gurus would usually say, you have to venture into business when your risk-taking abilities are still strong enough to withstand failure after failure, because that's always a reality when you do business. So in Tagalog, I would usually say, inegosyo mo yung kaya mo lang ipatalo sa sugat. Because when you take risks, you can never be sure that you will succeed on your first try. Okay? Food for thought. Now, according to Rauch in 2014, characteristics like self-efficacy and achievement motivation can be influenced by simple interventions. Therefore, if we keep on motivating a person through interventions, that could be as simple as, this is what my mom would usually do to me, okay? We don't get a new set of school supplies if you don't graduate with honors. And the point was, when I was in elementary, I think I was just living in the shadows of my sisters who all graduated on top of their class. And so, I was always at the tail end. Lagi po akong fifth honor. Why? Well, for whatever reason there is, but maybe because I'm being compared to my older siblings who actually went to the same school before me. And so what my mom did, very simple intervention, she transferred me to a new school where there were more challenges. And there, I learned how to innovate and apply it into my study habits. And so at the end of it, even if I was transferring when I was already high school at the Don Mariano Marcos Memorial State University, there was Don Mariano before. Okay, when the Marcoses got exiled, medyo nabawasan ng budget, so naging Mang Mariano Marcos na lang. Kidding aside, naging MMMSU na lang. Okay, that's actually a joke in the school, in our school. So actually, with that simple intervention, transferring me to a new environment, I was able to adjust. That's the basic function of personality. And applying it into the mindset of the entrepreneur, when you bring an entrepreneur to another environment, they would definitely thrive. That's how they are. Okay, so here's a sample task. Suppose you asked 4 of your group mates to prepare decorations in your unit for a competition. Okay, imagine yourself as a part of an RLE group or a group of nurses in a ward. And this is how your 4 group mates responded. So, gagawa kayo ng decorations. For example, for a competition, the best decorated unit in the hospital. And so, this is how the members of your team actually reacted. So, you have Nurse A, who reacted with a lot of enthusiasm. And that person begins to talk and talk and talk. Ganito ang gagawin natin. Kailangan maganda, kailangan makulay. Okay? Parang GMA, makulay. Anumang kulay ng buhay. That's the sanguine personality. In a nutshell, daldal lang ng daldal. Okay? Nurse B or nursing student B, okay, went down to work right away, sets the goal, and works independently. Ang hindi naman kagandahan dito, nangunguna. Okay. So nanguna na siyang nagawa ng goals and objectives niya, and then inumpisahan na niya, di pa niya nakakausap yung ibang kasama niya sa team. That's actually the choleric temperament. The nursing student C tried to think first and then plans for the details. Very pedantic, detail-oriented person. That's the melancholic. Isip muna ng isip. Hanggang sa naunahan na siya. ng ibang kasamahan dahil ang tagal mag-isip. And of course, there's one person who doesn't want to think, okay, who doesn't want to get down to work right away, but this very caring person would be very quiet and easygoing and would love to be just the taga-timpla ng kape of the team. So that is the phlegmatic. Now, these are the 4 temperaments based on Hippocrates, okay, who identified it and actually classified people during his time based on these 4 major temperaments. Okay, so how do we communicate effectively with these people? The sanguine, they need guidance. And since they're very good at talking, then you can assign them as the marketer of the team. Wow. So in a business sense, the sanguine personality is a good marketing officer. The choleric, in the other hand, who sets the goal and works independently, allow them to lead the team. These are the people who are born leaders. The melancholic, on the other hand, who loves to think and think and think, okay, appoint them as part of the think tank, strategist, okay? And of course, the phlegmatic, who just loves to prepare coffee. Ask them to provide care for the team. In essence, okay, who would make a good entrepreneur? There's no such thing as one size fits all for entrepreneurial personality. Hindi pwedeng pag sanguine ka, you're a good entrepreneur. Pag phlegmatic ka, mag-nursing ka because you're very caring. It's not like that. We all have specific amounts of these temperaments in ourselves. Okay, so that's the contention. So after meeting your team to create the decorations, this is how you should assign the task to your team. Question is, how? Okay, you assign the melancholic to think about the strategies. How can we beat the competition? And then, okay, you assign the choleric, who gets down to work right away, works independently to lead the team to work on the task. And then you assign the phlegmatic to take care of the team, provide the coffee and the food. They're quiet and easygoing. And then allow the sanguine to market the product, present it to the judges. So therefore, if you are to be considered as possessing entrepreneurial behavior and personality, what should you have? You have to have a little of all of this. Okay? So me, I'm more of the sanguine type, okay, and the choleric type. I buckle down to work right away. I identify my goals, and then I talk and talk and talk about it. Okay? Now, the question is, how will you know your temperament? You can go to this site, take a short quiz, that's less than 5 minutes, and you'll get to know what your temperament is. This is also very important when you're dealing with your co-staff nurses eventually, or your fellow nursing students when you're doing group work. So you don't expect, okay, a person who is sanguine to think before acting. Unang gagawin yan, magdadaldal. Okay? You don't expect, okay, a choleric person to initially just be easy-go-lucky. No. Okay? No, no, no. So in essence, it's very important that you have to have a little of everything. So look at my results. So I'm a bit of the choleric and melancholic, okay? Sorry, choleric and the sanguine, and of course, a bit of the melancholic and the phlegmatic. So in essence, marunong din naman ako magtimpla ng kape para sa iba, okay? Marunong din naman ako mag-isip ng strategy, but I'm more of an independent worker, a choleric, and a marketer, a sanguine. Kaya ako, hindi napapanuto pag wala akong invitation to speak in professional gatherings every week, okay? So, according to the results, my temperament is I'm a sanguine, okay? I'm fundamentally spontaneous and pleasure-seeking. Sanguine people are sociable and charismatic. They tend to enjoy social gatherings, making new friends, and tend to be boisterous. They're usually quite creative and often daydream. However, some alone time is crucial for those of this temperament. Sanguine can also mean sensitive, compassionate, and thoughtful. Sanguine personalities generally struggle with following tasks all the way through are chronically late and tend to be forgetful and sometimes a little sarcastic. I'm not chronically late. In fact, I always respect time, okay? So often they pursue a new hobby. They lose interest as soon as it ceases to be engaging or fun. They are very much people persons. They are talkative and not shy. Sanguines generally have an almost shameless nature, certain that what they are doing is right. They have no lack of confidence. So confidence is what sets the entrepreneurial person from the rest. You have to believe in yourself, in what you are doing, and in the output, whether that be a product or a service that you have came up with. Okay, so what makes, therefore, an entrepreneur? So I've been saying a while back, there is no one-size-fits-all portrait of the entrepreneur, which simply means studies suggest that it is unclear whether individuals with a given set of personality traits decided to go into entrepreneurship or whether they develop the traits after becoming entrepreneurs. So what is this trying to tell us? Studies are trying to tell us, are the entrepreneurial personality traits the cause why a person is an entrepreneur, or is it the effect, meaning something that they develop after they became entrepreneurs? So ang sinasabi dito, yung bang personality traits ng isang entrepreneur ay ang dahilan kung bakit siya naging entrepreneur, o yung personality traits ba nila ang epekto ng pagiging entrepreneur nila? So what I can potentially say is that it could possibly be both. It's not for us to resolve at this point because this is a finding of a review of literature that's done at the Harvard Business School. Now, the question now is, this is like a chicken or egg dilemma, okay? But what matters for us in this subject is we need to identify the personality traits of the entrepreneur and then describe it and try to reflect how are these potentials within ourselves can be developed such that we become full-blown entrepreneurs. Okay? So it's very, very important to note that. So let's not astray from our focus. Kailangan natin ngayong pagnilay-nilayan sa ating diskusyon na ito ay ano nga ba ang personalidad ng isang entrepreneur? Okay? Kailangan natin yung isa-isahin, i-describe natin, at pag-isipan kung paano natin mapagyayabong kung meron man tayo niyan para tayo ay maging entrepreneur or entrepreneur. Okay? So, which begs us to ask this question, who is an entrepreneur? Sino nga ba ang entrepreneur? Now, what is important when we're dealing with the entrepreneurial personality is that we have to acknowledge that the entrepreneur, whether they're venturing into a business or they're preparing to venture into one, should have both a vision and a mission. They should know the direction they're getting into. They have to have a clear idea of how their status in life as well as the product that they will introduce become in the future. That's why you will have to ask the question, how do you see yourself 5 years from now? And then they also have to have the mission, which means they have to have the overall goal. They have to know their sense of purpose, because it's their sense of purpose that will help them identify what product or service will they introduce, okay, the customers that they will target, and the location where they will put the business. And this is very, very crucial. Kahit sino pa ang entrepreneur, kailangan meron siyang vision at meron siyang mission. Okay. Now, an entrepreneur is characterized as, this is one thing that I formulated, the code is ENTRAP, enthusiastic. You have to have a passion, but your passion should be grounded on your absolute truth. Because if, parang napakalalim yata, because if you are just doing things because you're passionate about it, but you are not accepting your truth or the reality of the situation you're in, then that could be just delusional in nature or false belief na magiging successful ka. So kailangan mo na tanggapin mo anong katotohanan. Kung ikaw ay nag-uumpisa na mahirap, huwag kang mag-pretend. Don't be like an entrepreneur I know na, okay, lahat ng gamit signature. Tapos, nagta-tricycle naman. Okay? So do not pretend. Be as realistic as you can be. So do not drive your entrepreneurial energy such that you are only driven by enthusiasm and passion. Your enthusiasm and passion should be grounded on your absolute truth. Okay? Next, an entrepreneur is a networker. Okay, so which simply means you love meeting people, you love making friends, but you have to know when to bridge and when to build a wall. Because one business partner of mine always reminded me before, Ray, bata ka pa. Always remember, everyone is a sucker. Okay? And then, of course, an owner of a very popular coffee shop, chain of coffee shops, reminded me, Ray, let's attend the event and then get out right away. And I said, why? And she said, you know what happened to me last time? I attended a networking night. Then my email got flooded with so many proposals and solicitation. So in other words, yung iisa na solicitor general ng Pilipinas, dumadami. As a result of networking, you have to be ready, but you have to know how to say no gracefully. Okay? Kasi when I was starting my business, yan ang unang napansin ko. Mas madami naman yung gustong manghingi ng solicitation kaysa sa magpasok ng kliyente. Be aware of that. Next, entrepreneurs thrives on challenges. But once again, this is very, as one theorist would say, some of these indicators and characteristics could be age specific, which I agree. When I was 22 years old, because I'm now 26, Char, one student of mine said, sir, we're not asking about years in service. We're talking about your age. Okay, so when I was 22, my energy for challenges was at its peak. But whoever said that life is perfect, sabi nga nila, when you start your time as an entrepreneur, you have the energy, you have the time, and you don't have the money. So you work hard for that. And then midway, you'll have the money, you'll have the energy, but you don't have time. Okay? And then towards the end of your entrepreneurial career, you have time, you have the money, but no more energy. So, which begs us to ask the question, when is the proper time to exit as an entrepreneur? You just have to respect generation and your specific goal. So when you reach that goal, then that's all right. You serve your purpose. You serve your mission. Like for example, noong araw, ang goal ko ay kumita ng X amount of money. Ang binigay sa akin ng Diyos sobra-sobra na, ba't ko papapahirapan ng sarili ko? You just have to respect the time, the generation, and be grateful that during your generation, you reach the peak. But that's not the design of the world or the universe that you'll stay on top forever. No, that is a useless proposition. You cannot. The law of gravity would always tell you to go down because that's how the world is designed. Otherwise, kung lahat pala tayo, pag narating ang rurok ng tagumpay, nandun na tayo, we stay there forever. No. Okay? So, once again, entrepreneurs are risk takers. What does that mean? They have that innate sense of venturing into something new sometimes that is completely absurd and unknown to them. Okay? And that's one of the characteristics of Donald Trump. He wants every day to, not actually every day, but every hour to accomplish one thing. So ang kanyang buhay ay deal, 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 and he wants to win every deal that he gets into. Okay? Sometimes at the expense of his family. Okay? But that's how they are. That's how he is as a person. Now, entrepreneurs are also extrovert and proactive. What do you mean by extrovert? Okay, they love to socialize. What do you mean by proactive? They don't need any instruction from someone. They don't have to be told of what to do. They know how to anticipate. They do something in anticipation of certain things. But for you to do that, you are supposed to be properly informed. Huwag kang trigger happy. Before the pandemic, some of the executives in our family business were presenting to me proposal for expansions into other countries, which I refused and said, no, 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 and no. Okay? Why? Because I attended this forum with Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Good Dad, Bad Dad, and he said, it's very clear that the world is ripe for a worldwide meltdown, but he doesn't know what will cause that meltdown. That's before the pandemic. And so, being informed of this, I prepared. Preparation means I have to discipline my people, make them understand what I'm saying from the information I'm getting from the experts. And true enough, before the pandemic came in, we were prepared, the company is flexible enough, and so we were able to sail through it, and right now, back on track to expansion. So that's, in a nutshell, what characterizes an entrepreneur. Enthusiastic, networker, thrives on challenges, risk takers, extrovert, and proactive. Okay, now the question is, do certain traits predict an individual's likelihood of becoming an entrepreneur? Okay, pwede ba nating mahulaan or mapangunahan na pag nakita natin itong mga kaugalian na ito, ay masasabi natin na magiging entrepreneur ang batang ito? Okay, so let's answer those questions using the Big Five model and the concept of locus of control. And so let's begin with the Big Five model. The Big Five model is a multi-dimensional approach towards defining what personality is. It is the most widely accepted personality theory held by psychologists today. Now, according to the Big Five model, personality can be described by 5 core factors, namely, the mnemonic is ocean: openness to experience, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Okay, so we will talk about this in detail and identify the indicators and bring into the scenario how these are observable in terms of the entrepreneur vis-a-vis the manager. So we'll compare the two. So the Big Five model asserts that each personality trait is a spectrum. Ang ibig sabihin ng spectrum, nandyan tayo sa level na yan and we fluctuate. Okay? It's not black and white. Hindi natin sinasabi na kung ikaw meron kang openness, ikaw ay walang openness. It's not like that. So, being in a spectrum means that levels of the trait exist within an individual. We could be less open, but more conscientious. We could be more open and more extrovert, but less neurotic or neuroticism. Okay? So, that's what we mean by the personality trait being in a spectrum. Okay, so studies suggest that heritability and environmental factors affect all 5 factors to the same degree. So this therefore answers our initial question. What makes an entrepreneur? Is it nature or nurture? Nature or nurture? Both. Pareho. Heritability, that's nature. Environmental factors, how we were nurtured, affect all 5 factors to the same degree, which actually brings to mind the question, therefore, kung ito pala ay function ng part genetic at part impluensya ng ating kapaligiran, pwede ba nating masabi na the entrepreneurial trait and behaviors can be developed? Let's answer that in a while. So according to the Big Five model, this actually precedes Hippocrates' 4 types of temperament. Okay, it was based on the works of various researchers like Cattell, Fisk, Norman, Tupes, Crystal, Costa, and McCrae, including Goldberg. Okay, so this is very, very important, okay, for us to know. Okay, the 5 macro traits, remember the code, ocean, openness to experience. How would we know? So you can be imaginative or spontaneous, or prefers routine or practical. If you are imaginative or spontaneous, you can be the entrepreneurial person. If you prefer routine and you are a little more practical, laging tinitignan ay, how do you come up with a cost-effective budget? You could be a manager. Okay? Conscientiousness, you are disciplined and careful because you take all the risks, you take care of your money, or you can be impulsive and disorganized. Habang may pondo, you propose for ventures. Okay? That could be done if you're not taking the risk at all. And that's primarily associated with being a manager. Or extraversion, meaning you're sociable and fun-loving, or you are reserved and thoughtful. Agreeableness, suspicious and uncooperative. You hire people, but you don't want to delegate tasks because you don't trust them. So what's the use? Or are you trusting and helpful? Because eventually, an entrepreneur should be someone who is willing to distribute ownership of the business to those people who are essential to their operations. And then neuroticism. Are you anxious or pessimistic? Or are you calm and confident? You need to be calm and confident if you're an entrepreneur. Kasi kung matarantahin ka, nagkaroon ng konting problem, and that sends you into panic. And a person who is in panic could potentially become hostile and eventually will have personality disintegration. Mabaliw ka na. Okay? Next, okay. So let's pay particular attention now to the descriptors or the description of the 5 macro traits. Openness to experience means how open a person is to new ideas and experience. If you say yes to this, you could be a good entrepreneur. Conscientiousness, how goal-directed, persistent, and organized a person you are. If you have these characteristics, another check. Extraversion, how much a person is energized by the outside world. So you have to ask yourself, what pushes you to do your thing? Okay? Is it just your internal motivation, or partly you are energized by accolades you're receiving from people around you? Okay? Agreeableness, how much a person puts others' interests and needs ahead of their own. So entrepreneurs are good at putting themselves at the bottom of the list when you are identifying what should be the priority. The priority should be what you can offer your customers. How can you add value to your products? And then neuroticism. Neuroticism is not the same as being a neurotic behavior according to Freudian theory. So neuroticism in the context of the entrepreneurial trait means the ability to withstand stress. In other words, how much emotionally stable you are. So which simply means if you are very sensitive to negative emotional triggers, that could be a red flag, because as an entrepreneur, you will experience a lot of rejections. A lot of rejections. And some people may not be good at making the rejections more acceptable on your end. Sometimes people really are very offensive with their words. But that's how the world is. Whoever said that the world is not full of cruel people? Okay, when you go out there, like in the ocean, there are sharks and whales. But it is your exposure to those sharks and whales that would actually strengthen you eventually. So there's no such thing as negative experience, only learning opportunities. Okay, so look at it as a learning opportunity. Now, using the Big 5 model, let's differentiate the entrepreneur from the manager. An entrepreneur is a visionary. They know what they want in the future. The manager, who is an employer of the boss, would align their vision with what the employer wants them to do. Okay, so that's a difference. Next, the entrepreneur takes all the risks. Remember, the entrepreneur must be a risk taker. The manager does not bear any risk at all. That's why sometimes they are giving a lot of proposals. Okay? Pandemic na, may proposal pa rin for expansion. Okay? Next, for the entrepreneur, achievement is the key motivation. They want to get to the goal. But some of these people don't really know how to have a good exit. Okay? We cannot own the world no matter what we do. That's not the design of the universe. So once you have achieved what goal you've set for yourself, then find peace that you have had your moment in time. Okay? All of us are in our respective in the meantime. Sabi nga ng aking favorite author, Ian Lavansan. Okay? We are all in the meantime. But you have to use your meantime to prepare for your moment in time. Okay? Parang kanta ni Whitney Houston na yun. Each day I live. Okay? Give me one moment in time. Di ba? Di ba? Yun. There in that one moment of time. Ganon. I will feel. Ganon. Okay? That's the key motivation. Achievement. Ano ang gusto mong makuha? For the manager, the key motivation is being promoted to the next higher position and eventually being the COO of the company. For the entrepreneur, they don't get motivated by money alone. They look at profit as their reward for a job well done. Remember, when you've done your part, the universe will reward you in a million ways that you can never, ever imagine. For the manager, salary or remuneration is the reward. I want the next higher salary. And the entrepreneur is usually very informal and casual. Hindi mo yan makikita na gagastos ng pera sa mga branded na clothes. Okay? The manager would usually do that, part of their packaging of the position they hold. The entrepreneur, pinanghihinayangan bawat isang sentimo. For as long as they are presentable, they smell good, they are clean, they are very hygienic, and once they open their mouth, people would listen. That's the entrepreneur. Diba, maganda lang ang damit, pag nagsalita na, meh. Okay. Okay, so let's move on. So if we're going to differentiate now the entrepreneur versus the manager using the Big Five model approach, in terms of openness to experience, the entrepreneur is more open. The entrepreneur is attracted to changing environments because they are risk takers. The manager may have less of this. We're not saying they don't have this. Remember, they are in a spectrum, okay? Conscientiousness. The entrepreneur is usually very dependable because the entrepreneur also acts as the consultant of their own business. They have higher achievement motivation. The manager is also dependable, but their motivation is different from that of the entrepreneur. Some people would say, and the mantra is to kill the competitor. You cannot do that. The world is not, I beg to disagree with that mantra. But, you know, even my sisters who studied in very, very well-known business schools here in the Philippines and abroad would usually say, kill your competitor. I said, no, I don't believe in that. We better ourselves. That is a better mantra than killing your competitor. Killing the competitor is not literally killing the competitor by hiring a gunman or stabbing them with knife. But killing the competitor means you kill them in the market. Because I don't believe in management by market share. As an entrepreneur, management should be geared towards profit so that you can sustain your enterprise and pay your employees better. So, what difference does it make if you make 1 million pesos by just having 100 customers than earning 1 million pesos and serving 1,000 customers? If you're serving 1,000 customers, that would make it lose your cool. Okay? Maubos ang energy mo, pleasing everybody. That's not a good way to do it. Okay? Try to please everybody and you'll expect failure. That's not the way to do it. The way to do it is create your niche, make it so palatable and delicious, and let the brand withstand time. Okay? Extraversion, the entrepreneur and the manager are similar. However, small business owners are less likely to attend big social gatherings because usually small business owners would prefer tending to their business than nakikipag-sosyalan. Especially kung doon sa sosyalan, you would not get anything after except solicitation letters. Okay? Next, agreeableness. Less likely to worry about pleasing other people. That's the entrepreneur. Okay? Because, well, anyway, pleasing people, which is termed in psychiatric nursing as enmeshment, okay, or relationship addiction, okay, is actually something cultural. Whether we like it or not, that's how we were raised by our parents. And in psychiatric nursing, they are called helicopter parents, parents who meddle with the affairs of their children in such a way na nawawala na yung privacy and boundary. Pati letters ng anak binubuksan ng magulang. Very Filipino. However, that is called as enmeshment trauma in psychiatric nursing. And, okay, if you are an entrepreneur, that's not a way to do it. You please your customer with the goods or the services that you offer, not something else. Because at the end of the day, they will look for the product or the service that they want. Hindi dahil piniplease ka nila in some other ways. Okay? The manager, isa lang piniplease ng manager. They work to please the boss. Make the boss happy. That's the manager. Neuroticism, okay, their emotional instability. The entrepreneur is less neurotic. So they are risk takers, they're more confident, and so therefore they have high tolerance to stress. And one thing that I can share with you, if you want to increase your tolerance to stress, is you have to have a work-life balance, and you begin with your mobile phones. Have at least 2 mobile phones. One would be for work, one would be for your family or personal friends, such that do not make your house an extension of your work. Otherwise, you'll be prone to burnout. Okay? So the moment you arrive home, turn your work phone off and turn on your family phone. That would help you achieve work-life balance during this time. Okay, so definitely the manager, they are expected to deliver on the tasks that are presented to them by their boss. So they are, in that sense, okay, more aligned with focusing more on the tasks at hand. Okay, now researchers suggest entrepreneurs thrive on a strong sense of self-efficacy, meaning a belief that tasks can be performed to execute their vision, what they want to be in the future, and a keen eye for innovation to identify new products and markets. Sometimes they turn complaints or irritations coming from other people or their customers as their basis for creating a product. Because as an entrepreneur, when you innovate, you need to offer a solution to the problems of the world. Okay? But the point is now, when you come up with a product, because everything is out there in social media, the moment you market it, somebody will imitate it. But that's always the danger of being an entrepreneur. So if you are asking my personal opinion, when you innovate, you have to make sure that you have a market that is ready to adopt your innovation or your product. Because if you put something out there hoping that the market will notice it, hoping that your investors will notice it, at the end of the day, they're just going to copy it. Okay? And technology now can make it easy for them to do that. So if you would want to assess your entrepreneurial traits, you can go into this site and take a short online quiz, and you'll be able to identify whether you possess the entrepreneurial traits that we've just discussed. Okay, the second concept that we're going to discuss in relation to our question on whether we can develop the personality traits of the entrepreneur is the concept of locus of control. Now, this concept was first introduced by Reuters through his theory of social learning. Okay, so according to Rotter's theory of social learning, behavior is determined by nature or importance of goals, which are very, very evident in entrepreneurs, and the anticipation that the goals will occur. Once again, the nature of the goals and the anticipation that the goals will occur, these are very, very characteristics of the entrepreneur. Meron siyang goal na gustong ma-achieve at alam niya na mangyayari yon at gagawin niya lahat para mangyari yon. Very, very aligned with Rotter's theory of social learning. So Rotter describes personality as a stable set of potentials, which simply means since it's stable, it's very predictable. So since it's predictable, you can be sure that when an opportunity presents itself, the entrepreneurial person will respond to that situation in a particular way. And Rotter also describes personality and behavior as always changeable. So that answers the question on, is there a possibility that a person becomes an entrepreneur after retirement? There's always a possibility because we can always change our personality and behavior. However, gusto mo pa ba na mag-retire ka tapos magiging risk taker ka pa? Risking lahat ng retirement mo na pinaghirapan mo? Okay? As I've said early on, you only put into business that which you can afford to lose in gambling. In other words, since ang pagninegosyo ay parang sugal, ilagay mo lang dyan kung ano ang kaya mong isugal. Hindi pwedeng lahat ng kabuhayan nakalagay dyan. Okay? Okay. So, Rotter also suggests if you change the way a person thinks or the environment the person is responding to, behavior will change. Look at what happened in the pandemic. Lahat natutong mag-online selling. Lahat natutong mag-online learning. Lahat natutong, kasi nga, nagbago ang environment. So, nagbago rin ang behavior ng tao. At since nagbago ang behavior ng tao, nagbago rin ang preference nila sa produkto. And that will not revert back to our Stone Age belief in our own echo chamber in our respective caves in this world. Ganyan kasi tayo eh. Pag ayaw nating magbago, gusto natin pakinggan yung echo lang ng mga pumupuri sa ating ginagawa at sinasabi, effective talaga itong ganitong method, effective. Tayo na lang po ang ganon. We have our own echo chamber ng chuwari-wap sa ating gustong gawin sa buhay. No. Okay? I've always espoused for innovation in terms of teaching and learning. And some mentors would usually ask me, but Doc Ray, how do we know that the students are engaging in the content? There are numerous ways. 1,001 ways. Parang Dalmatian, di ba? That we can evaluate if the learning has occurred. And how can we be sure that if we lectured and finished the topic within the specified period of time, natuto sila? Or they have just written data. Data, as in raw information. Because if the data are organized, then it becomes now your information. And when you synthesize information, that becomes knowledge. And when you use that knowledge to make decision, then you gain wisdom. What is our expected outcome ba? Ano ang pamantayan natin ng learning? Diba behavior change? So therefore, hindi ibig sabihin na pag na-memorize niya ang lecture natin at naka 100 siya sa quiz, very psychometric, very numeric ang ating evaluation. That's why I always espouse for Gardner's multiple intelligence theory. Kasi hindi lang naman iisa ang basihan na natuto ang isang tao. Like if we want to become nurses, yung bang pagiging mabuting nurse na may measure ng 100 items na exam, I beg to disagree. That's why I always say, let's recreate our teaching and learning platform and adopt constructionism and constructivism. Okay? So that we are very, very aligned with the changing times. However, okay, sabi ko nga, we are in our own echo chamber of primitivity in the caves where we occupy, listening to the thoughts that other people like our age are pestering us with, that effective pa ito, until the world has changed and we are now being left behind. Okay? So, how do we differentiate the theory of Rotter that's focused on social learning from that of Freud's, that is focused on psychosocial development, psychosexual rather development. Okay, so according to Rotter, behavior is controlled by seeking positive experiences. So ang psychological high ng tao ay pag siya'y naka-accomplish, and that person could be given a pat on the back, psychological paycheck. Freud, according to Freud, says behavior is controlled by unconscious drives, the id, the ego, and the superego. Okay? And that occurs as we develop our personality. The infant is all id, and then the toddler develops the ego, and the preschooler develops the superego. That's according to Freud. However, yung teorya ni Rutter is more aligned for the entrepreneurial personality, in which the development of a person is reinforced by the positive experiences that could be brought about by achieving the goals they have set for themselves. Yan. Okay. Now, locus of control, let's relate it now to the theory of Rotter, is a concept of defining whether a person believes they are in control of their future or someone else is in control of it. So which simply means, ano ba ang pinaniniwalaan natin? Kontrolado natin ang ating hinaharap? Okay? Ibang hinaharap siguro ang naiisip nyo. O kontrolado natin, o ang ating hinaharap pa ay hindi natin kontrolado at ito ay kontrolado ng nangyayari sa ating kapaligiran. Okay? Yan ang konsepto ng locus of control. So, entrepreneurs tend to have a strong locus of control, which means they believe they are in control. They create their destiny. They don't wait for people to create it for them. So, when you say locus of control, you have internal locus of control and external locus of control. Internal locus of control, this occurs when a person conceptualizes their own decisions and they control their lives. External locus of control occurs when a person believes that true controlling factors are chance, fate, or environmental features they cannot influence. So which simply means, para silang helpless, na wala na akong magagawa kasi hindi pinayagan ng gobyerno. Or, magtaya na lang ako sa loto, baka manalo ako by chance. May pampuhunan ako sa negosyo. Entrepreneurs don't think like that. Entrepreneurs will make decisions that will pave the way for them so that they can control their lives. Okay? So there's only one thing that an entrepreneur aspires to achieve initially. That is to create their own pathway to success. And that begins with their internal locus of control. The decisions that they make such that they can control their vision of what their future is like. Okay? So researchers suggest a link between belief in internal locus, internal control, to the likelihood of engaging in entrepreneurial activity. Sinasabi ng research na ito ay, yung mga tao na strong o malakas ang internal locus of control, mas malaki ang tsansa na maging entrepreneur or will engage in entrepreneurial activity. Magiging negosyante. Kasi alam niyang kontrolado niya eh. Okay? So once you lose that control and you don't know what to do, then you just have to pace yourself properly. Don't quit. Pace yourself properly. Study the environment. Okay? So the question now is, can entrepreneurial traits be developed? Okay. So according to social learning theories, okay, ano sinasabi nila? Social learning theories show that humans learn through observing and imitating others. Therefore, we can develop entrepreneurial traits by observing others, how they do it, and by imitating others. So, according to the social learning theories, kasama dyan ang imitation. Whether we like it or not, people will imitate what we will do. Okay? But find comfort in the fact that, as they say, imitation is the best form of flattery. Pag ginagaya ka, you must be doing something good kasi ginagaya ka eh. Ang problema, kung yung nanggaya sa'yo, ang pinapalabas ay siya ang original. No. Okay? Cannot be. That's why when you become an entrepreneur, make sure everything has been properly trademarked in your name, copyrighted in your name, and nobody can take that away from you. That's your moment in time. Okay? Nung ako ay nagsulat ng libro at na-publish ng kauna-unahang ginawa ng Pilipino by Mosby Elsevier, that's my moment in time. During that moment in time, I can lay claim to the fact that I was the first. Anybody who comes after me is just second. Sorry na lang. Ganon. Once you have that, at yun lang naman ang goal na set mo para sa sarili mo, then you can now actually take a look at the other aspects of living. Okay? Hindi pwedeng gawin mong addiction ng pagninegosyo. Okay? It doesn't make sense. Okay? Do something different. Okay? Do something for others in a different way. So, when you talk of the theories of social learning, there are two theories that are standing out. One would be Rotter and the other one by Bandura. Rotter is more specific. Bandura is broader. Actually, Bandura social learning theory has more application in teaching and learning. Rotter, according to Rotter, behavior is controlled by seeking positive experiences. So, like the entrepreneur, they want to be reinforced by positive experiences. So that's their main motivation. And their behavior as a response to opportunities or threats changes. Okay? On the other hand, according to Bandura, social learning occurs through observation, imitation, and modeling, which is also applicable to the entrepreneurial trait. Kasi as an entrepreneur, you have to observe market trends. You can imitate and improve on existing products and services. And you can actually learn from your role models. Okay? So according to Bandura, okay, social learning could result from reinforcement learning or vicarious learning. What do you mean by vicarious? It is a secondary experience. Hindi ikaw mismo yung gumawa, kundi you observe somebody do it. So a lot of business guru would usually tell you, before you aspire to be an entrepreneur at wala kang puhunan, mahirap ka lang, well, magtrabaho ka muna sa isang established na company of an entrepreneur. Learn the trade para you don't commit the same mistakes. Somebody would buffer it for you because mistakes are expensive. Okay? So, pwede mong gawin yon. Like for example, bago ka maging house builders o nagtrabaho ka muna sa Crown Asia, learn the trade. Paano magtipid, paano kumuha ng suppliers, and then once na natutunan mo na, come up with your company, that should be different naman. Don't directly compete with your creator. You always improve on the services and maybe have your own niche market. Don't go in direct collision with your creator. Don't do that. Okay? That's a very good trait of Filipinos, yung utang na loob. Hindi na babayaran yan for the longest time. So, on my end, when I put up my own company, initially, after I learned the trade, coming from a relative who's very famous at doing his thing, okay? Lumayo ako. Sa ibang lugar ko ilalagay para I'm not in direct collision with my creator. You always have to remember that. That's utang na loob. Okay? Thank you. And that's actually our first part. I'll see you back again on the second and third part. I hope you enjoyed our part 1 discussion.